Lynn. She is the president and CEO of the Cleveland Rape Crisis Center. She is also with the Ohio Alliance to End Sexual Violence. Megan, if you would come forward.
Thank you. Good morning. I just want to express my gratitude to Representatives Baker and Slaby for their support of this issue and their passion around how we can increase services for survivors of sexual violence. One day last week, our hotline rang 8 times with calls from 8 different sexual assault survivors. 5 adult women, 1 adult man, and 2 calls regarding children. All 8 callers needed support and information. Some asked where they could find counseling or how to file a police report. One caller simply needed to hear that she was not alone and that the abuse that had occurred more than 20 years ago was not her fault. With more than 100 trained volunteers and 22 employees at the Rape Crisis Center, where we are supported by federal grants and private philanthropy, we in Cleveland are fairly equipped to respond to these calls, to provide support and help to those who really need it in our community. We're the largest independent rape crisis center in Ohio, and as I said, we average 8 calls a day on our hotline. We serve 20,000 people a year through all of our programs, and that's supporting survivors, working on prevention, and creating change in the community. The number of survivors coming to our center has steadily grown over the years. I've been on staff of the center for almost 11 years, and our size has doubled in that time. And as more and more people come forward, we struggle to meet the needs. Across the state of Ohio at the Rape Crisis Center, as we have tried to mobilize our partner organizations, we've seen a very different picture in other communities. We work very closely with a statewide coalition called the Ohio Alliance to End Sexual Violence. That organization answers very, very different kind of calls. That organization's goal is to build up rape crisis centers around the state so we can have a consistent response for victims when they come forward. And you heard some of the statistics from Representative Baker about just what the great needs really are. For example, last week, advocates at the Ohio Alliance answered a call from a survivor in a rural county that needed an advocate in the criminal justice process. The closest rape crisis center was 2 counties away. Another caller, a survivor of childhood sexual abuse in southern Ohio, needed a local hotline number. But the hotline in that area had closed several years ago, and there was nowhere for that person to call. About 1/3 of the calls answered by the Ohio Alliance are from sexual assault survivors calling from an area with no rape crisis services at all. Less than half of Ohio's 88 counties have any type of rape crisis response. And an entire quadrant of the state, in the southeast portion of the state, has no rape crisis programming at all. So given that more than 80% of the clients who come to the center do not choose to participate in any type of prosecution at all, the numbers that we see reported are actually probably much higher than what we see. Our goal here is to really try and build a dedicated stream of support. As our organization has tried to meet with advocates around the state, I've seen executive directors of organizations answering the hotline, trying to write grants, run out of meetings to take care of crisis calls and things like that. So what we really want to do is, through a dedicated stream of funding, really equip rape crisis centers with something that they can count on year to year so we can help them grow and expand. Every child, teenager, adult, woman, and man who suffers horrific trauma like sexual assault deserves to have a safe place to call for help, a safe place to call and be supported with compassion and expertise, and so they can secure hope for a better future. So we believe that every single Ohio resident deserves to have a rape crisis program in their community. So we are very hopeful that this legislation is the start of building something that can help us meet that goal. And by establishing the Ohio Rape Crisis Trust Fund, we can really work together to create a healthier and more vibrant state of Ohio for all survivors. Thank you.